Chapter 480. Back in the cave, Leo was still unwilling to let go of Gu Mingming's hand. These few days, he had been suffering terribly. He had been living in the fear of being heartbroken. The despair of losing her the last time he was heartbroken was constantly enveloping him. Every little bit of sweetness he had after staying in the cave during winter had been magnified multiple times, becoming an accomplice to torment him. The loneliness after tasting warmth was the most bitter. Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's hand on her left and Li's right. She stood at the entrance of the cave but could not return home. The cave was only so big, 3 people could not fit in side by side. "Why don't the 2 of you go in hand?" Gu Mengmeng asked sincerely. Elvis and Lia exchanged glances. They each raised the hand that was not holding Gu Mingming's hand and punched at the 2 sides of the cave entrance. Yeah, Erlai's construction team, specializing in expanding all kinds of cave entrances. 1 punch to settle it, providing convenient services for your family of 3. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly as she maintained the posture of the 3 of them holding hands into the cave. But honestly speaking, it felt weird. It felt like Daddy and Mummy were bringing you to the supermarket. Damn it, Gu Mengmeng once again felt the malice from the height. Gu Mengmeng looked at the cave and felt that something was missing. After thinking for a long time, she was suddenly shocked. She turned to Elvis and asked, "Where are Hede and the rest?" Elvis was also taken aback and said, "Ah. They seem to be still soaking in the water." Gu Mengmeng glared at him and Elvis immediately said, don't be angry. I will go get the 4 of them now." With that, Elvis hurriedly ran out of the cave. After Elvis left, there was only Gu Mengmeng and Leo left in the cave. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Gu Mengmeng pulled her hand away from Li's grasp. Not only did Lia not let go, he even wrapped his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and asked, "Are you regretting taking me in?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I never really let you go. I was greedy on one side, but I did not dare to admit it at the same time. That's why I ended up like this today. If we had known this would happen, we might as well have admitted our selfishness and greed from the very beginning. Whoever wants to scold us can scold us all they want. At least the 3 of us wouldn't have to suffer so much." Lia placed Gu Mengmeng on the bed and let her sit properly. He laid on his side and used Gu Mingming's thighs as a pillow. His furry big tail brushed against Gu Mingming's waist. He said, "I know you're lying to me, but I still feel happy after hearing it. Mengmeng, this time, lie to me for the rest of my life, alright?" Gu Mengmeng gently caressed Li's hair. The texture of his silver white hair was really good, as smooth as silk. Gu Mengmeng twirled a strand of hair around her fingertip and said, "When did I lie to you? I'm obviously telling the truth, okay?" Lia said, "If you really have me in your heart, why would you be so cruel to me? Once I confirmed that you and Elvis had mated, I immediately came back to look for you. I knew that you were angry at my scheming, so you would definitely be punished, but I didn't expect that you would directly cut me off from your heart. You clearly knew that the matter between Nina and me was fake, yet you kept saying that I was someone else's male, which made my heart ache." Gu Mengmeng poked Li's head and said, "Why didn't you mention that when you were poking me at Nina's house? I was so upset that I didn't want to live, but I didn't see you feeling sorry for me." Chapter 481. Then why did you stop me from hitting Nina? Gu Mengmeng was still very angry when she thought of this. Leo looked at Gu Mengmeng with an aggrieved look and said, "I was afraid that you would dirty your hands and I was worried that your hands would hurt." Gu Mengmeng replied, "That would definitely not hurt as much as you pinching my wrist." Leo looked down and said, "I also know that you would definitely feel a lot of pain when I pinched your wrist. That is my punishment to myself. When you are in pain, I am in even more pain." With that, Lia placed Gu Mingming's little hand on his chest and said, "Here, it hurts 1,000 times more." Gu Mengmeng looked into Li's eyes. The deep love had never faded and it was even more intense than before. You were the one who abandoned me, but now you're saying it as if I let you down. Gu Meng Meng mumbled unhappily. Leah said, if you weren't uncomfortable and were willing to accept both me and Elvis as your partners, I wouldn't have to do so many things. Gu Meng Meng said, now it's my fault. Leah flipped over and sat up, hugging Gu Meng Meng from his body. He felt the complete feeling of using her body heat to fill his embrace and said, it's not considered letting me down, but you owe me happiness. At that time, you said that I was your ex-boyfriend and asked me to maintain my demeanor and not disturb your life. Heartless Gu Meng Meng, do you know that your heartless words almost caused me to suffocate and die in front of you? You even said that you don't want things that have been touched by others. Leah kissed the side of Gu Meng Meng's face and whispered in her ear with a deep and husky voice, do you want to check if it has been touched before? Gu Meng Meng's hair stood up and she had goosebumps all over her body. She said defensively, we agreed not to mate, but Leo looked at Gu Meng Meng with a, your thoughts are so dirty expression and said, who said I want to mate? I just want you to check if your beast pet is clean. No need to check. I believe you. Gu Meng Meng blushed and wanted to retract her hand. But Leah did not give in. He placed his large hand over Gu Meng Meng's small hand, then slowly moved down from his chest. He removed his beast skin dress and said, it's better to check clearly, in case you use words like, someone else's male, or, something that someone else has touched, to poke my sore spot in the future. Gu Meng Meng knew that she should not look at indecent things, but she could not shift her eyes away. Lee's body was a size smaller than Elvis's. He looked more enchanting and otherworldly, but his flirtatious aura was so fresh and refined. The lines of his muscles were smooth, without a trace of excess fat or extra muscle. His whole body looked very comfortable. Gu Meng Meng really did not have the courage to explore some special parts. She turned her face to the side and said, hurry and wear your beast skin dress properly, or else I will fall out with you. But Leah did not care. He exerted force in his arms and Gu Meng Meng fell into his arms. Leo laid on his back and Gu Meng Meng laid on his chest like a little puppy. She propped her hands up slightly and looked at Leah, who was smiling ambiguously. His thin red lips opened slightly and his voice was as smooth as a seductive love song, pleasing your own female is every male's priority. As a beast pet, I should spare no effort, shouldn't I? Or, after you enjoyed Elvis, my body is no longer enough. Chapter 482. Leah tugged on Gu Meng Meng's collar lightly, his slender and bony fingers gently caressed Elvis's mark. The evidence is right here, do you still want to deny it? Gu Meng Meng tugged at her own collar, enjoy my ass. Hurry and wear your beast skin dress properly, or I'm leaving. Leah flipped over, pressing Gu Meng Meng on top of him, looking down at her blushing face, kissing her lightly, so good, you still blush because of me. Whoever stands naked in front of me, I will blush. Gu Meng Meng roared without much confidence. Leo was a little disappointed, rubbing his chin, Oratin also transformed in front of you previously, but I didn't see you blush. Gu Meng Meng said, he didn't press down on me. Lee's large tail covered the two of them like a blanket. He leaned down and kissed the side of her face, murmuring softly, guess why Elvis went out. Gu Meng Meng, to find our sons. Leah suddenly laughed. When we were not at home, those four little rascals ran around the tribe. Which part of us are not familiar with each other? Using him to find. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback, not saying a word. Leah, he's making space for us. He wants me to serve you properly. Gu Meng Meng slapped the side of the bed. I said I won't mate. Leah flipped over and laid on his side beside Gu Meng Meng, his furry tail covering the important parts. He patted Gu Meng Meng's arm lightly with his slender hands and pinched her soft little flesh. I know. To be able to hug you like this, kiss you, talk to you properly and tell you how much I love you, without you avoiding me, rejecting me, or getting angry. I'm already very happy and very satisfied. Gu Mingming's expression changed. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Leah, asking, "You're not angry? Letting you become a beast pet, but not willing to mate with you." Leah pulled Gu Mingming's little hand to his lips, kissing it. "No matter what you do to me, I won't be angry." Gu Mengmeng admitted that she was selfish. And Lee's tolerance and even indulgence made her feel sweet. She burrowed deeper into Lee's arms and pressed her forehead against his chest. "You're still saying you won't be angry?" Who was the one who was so angry that he wanted to turn himself into a barbecue? Leah rubbed Gu Mingming's little head gently, enjoying the fact that she was taking the initiative to approach him. He said gently, "I'm not angry, I just want to know, how much do I have to do for you to ignore me out of heartache?" Gu Mengmeng looked up and asked, "What if I didn't come?" Leo lowered his head and kissed her eyes. "That proves that you really don't want me anymore, then death is a release for me." Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's waist and pressed her face against his chest. "You promised me that you would never do anything to hurt yourself." Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly and said, "That's because your heart will ache if I hurt myself." Gu Mengmeng said, "My heart will always ache, so you are not allowed to do such things again." Leah, Mengmeng, I really belong to you, right? Gu Mengmeng looked up at Leah, smiling as she nodded her head. "Leah, in my life, I have never really owned anything, and I have never been owned by anyone. Mengmeng, thank you, for letting me become yours." Gu Mengmeng, silly. Chapter 483. The next night, Saint Nazir held a grand bonfire party. After Gu Mengmeng explained the plan, Leah understood and went to arrange it. Gu Mengmeng was playing rattan ball with her 4 sons not far from the venue. She was so crazy that her forehead was covered in sweat, but she was enjoying it. After being pounced on by Kanwu again, Elvis was finally infuriated. He came up and flung Kanwu far away, then carried Gu Mengmeng with one hand. Looking at Kanwu, who was spinning in midair and landing perfectly without any embarrassment, Elvis sneered, "If you pounce on my wife on the ground again, I will strangle you to death." Gu Mengmeng patted the dirt off her body. "It's fine, the kids are still young and don't know how to control their strength. He didn't do it on purpose, don't be angry." Elvis pointed at Kanwu. "He is already at the height of your thigh. If he keeps pouncing on you, you will get hurt." Gu Mengmeng did not realize it if Elvis did not mention it. Now that he mentioned it, she took a closer look at her 4 sons. Although the other 3 were not as exaggerated as Kanwu, they were at least the size of an adult husky. What to do? So proud. "My sons are tall," Gu Mengmeng laughed. "My babies, what did your Aunt Sandy feed you when I was not at home? How did you grow so well?" Ow, 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 the 4 little fellows fought to be the first to answer. Then, Gu Mengmeng still did not understand. Turning her head, Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis, waiting for him to translate. But Elvis sneered. "Born as a wolf, but eating female food and being fed by humans. How dare you say that?" Ow! The little fellows were obviously not happy with Elvis's words and were arguing with him. Gu Mengmeng immediately tried to smooth things over. "What did Sandy feed them?" Elvis laughed in disdain. "Bode and Colin were afraid that your sons would be wronged, so they prepared food according to Sandy's. In the end, Sandy was afraid that they would not have enough to eat, so she asked Colin and the rest to carry them and feed them one more time every day." Gu Mengmeng laughed. "Ha, it seems like it's true that a mother-in-law dotes on her son-in-law." Elvis raised his brow. "You really want the 4 of them to mate with Sandy's children?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Yeah, why? You object?" Elvis shook his head. "Why would I object to what you said? It's just that Sandy has been an adult for a long time now, but her stomach hasn't responded. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis and said with a serious expression, "Don't expose others' shortcomings. If Sandy hears this, she will be sad." Elvis did not continue speaking. Seeing Leah walking back, he placed Gu Meng Meng on the ground. The moment Gu Meng Meng sat on the ground, the 4 meat buns rushed over and gathered around her. Leah and Elvis had no choice. They did not dare to throw the 4 little ones out in front of Gu Meng Meng, so they could only pretend to be magnanimous and sit at the periphery, using their tails to protect Gu Meng Meng, preventing the 4 little ones from hurting her. As Gu Meng Meng played with her 4 sons, she said to Leah, "I want to sit next to Sandy and Mandy at the night campfire later." Leah frowned. "What about Elvis and me?" Chapter 484. The 2 males looked at each other and sighed speechlessly. A few days ago when Gu Meng Meng was angry, Leah and Elvis were left out in the cold. If not for Sandy putting in a good word for them, one of them would probably still be lying at the door and the other outside the yard. Accept your fate, Gu Meng Meng would always ignore them when Sandy was around. Just as she was thinking about it, she saw Colin and Bode walking towards them, one on the left and one on the right. Sandy's face was obviously filled with anger. She sat down in front of Gu Meng Meng, huffing and puffing without saying a word, obviously infuriated. Gu Meng Meng looked up at Colin and Bode, asking, "How did the 2 of you anger my little Sandy baby?" Colin hurriedly waved his hands, saying, "Not me, not me." Gu Meng Meng shifted her gaze to Bode, who also hurriedly shook his head, saying, "Not me either, not me either." Gu Meng Meng smiled, "The 2 of you wouldn't dare to anger my little Sandy baby." With that, Gu Meng Meng held Sandy's little hand, saying, "Although you look very beautiful when you are angry, I like you more when you are happy. Tell me, who angered you?" Sandy could never stay angry with Gu Meng Meng for long, so upon hearing her words, she could not help but feel a little shy, saying, "You are always spouting nonsense, always coaxing me, not a single word of truth." Gu Meng Meng widened her beautiful eyes, pointing to the sky and swore, "If I lie to you, may the heavens strike me with lightning." Sandy went forward to cover Gu Meng Meng's mouth, saying, "Don't swear so recklessly, what if it comes true?" Gu Meng Meng retracted her finger and held Sandy's little hand. She pulled her hand away from her mouth and held it in her hand. She nudged Sandy's shoulder lightly and said, "Are you worried that I will be struck by lightning? Your heart is aching." Sandy was finally tickled by Gu Meng Meng's nonchalant look. She poked Gu Meng Meng's brows in exasperation, saying, "The children are watching, you are also not being serious." Gu Meng Meng saw that Sandy's mood had improved, so she stopped fooling around, saying, "Tell me, who exactly angered you? Look at how angry you were just now, you were about to emit smoke." Sandy was still angry at the mention of this matter. "It's that Ellie." Gu Meng Meng squinted her eyes. "Ellie? That snake half-beast female." Sandy nodded and said with righteous indignation, "She came to find me today because we're both females of the same tribe and we're both half-beasts. She felt inferior in front of others, so it was normal for her to come to me. So, I kindly invited her to have some food with us and invited her to join the bonfire party in the evening. In the end, you know, she actually. Sandy glared fiercely at Colin. Colin innocently lowered his head and didn't say anything. Gu Meng Meng looked at his stance and asked, "What? Does she fancy Colin?" Colin hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. She didn't like me. She said that I had pursued you before." Gu Meng Meng gave him a look of understanding and said, "He went to your place to sow discord, right?" Sandy nodded angrily and said, "His words are so weird, it makes me angry." Gu Meng Meng patted the back of Sandy's hand and said, "What did he say? Let me hear it too." Chapter 485. Gu Meng Meng almost burst out laughing. She held Sandy's hand and asked, "Then what did you say?" Sandy put her hands on her waist and said, I said, if Gu Meng Meng really wants a bear beast as a beast pet, I will be Gu Meng Meng's beast pet without Colin. Gu Meng Meng laughed, ah ha ha. That's right, which bear can be as cute and beautiful as my little Sandy? If I really want to raise a bear as a beast pet, I will definitely raise you. The four males shuddered. Leah gently tugged at the corner of Gu Meng Meng's shirt and said, isn't it good to raise foxies? Bears don't have tails. Sandy was indignant upon hearing that. She turned around and transformed into her original form, revealing her furry little tail and shaking it twice. Then, she transformed back into her human form and said, who said bears don't have tails? I do. Gu Meng Meng held on to Sandy's arm and straightened her neck to look at Leah, saying, that's right, who said our Sandy doesn't have a tail? I saw it the last time. It was a very cute little fur ball, right Sandy? Sandy nodded and said, yes, it was very cute. Leah felt a strong sense of crisis and despair. Even though she was throwing a tantrum, Gu Meng Meng still held on to Sandy's arm and asked, Sandy, you don't believe what she said, right? Sandy said, I am not stupid. I saw Colin wooing you back then. I am not blind. Do I need an outsider like her to tell me? Moreover, if you like Colin, you should have accepted him back then. Why would you matchmake us? That Ellie has a bad heart. She wants me to quarrel with you and then make you sad. I will not fall for her trick. Humph. Gu Meng Meng hugged Sandy and swayed, saying, yeah, I know my Sandy is the best. She will not be provoked by others. But that Ellie is not simple. She is different from Nina in the past. You better stay away from her, understand? Sandy tilted her head and asked, what's different? Aren't they both bitches? Yes, this was what Gu Meng Meng used to scold Nina, but seeing how Sandy did not even know what a B***tch meant and spat out the word innocently, Gu Meng Meng still felt as if she had led the country's flower astray. She felt guilty as if she was luring a child to steal fast food noodles. Laughing twice, he said, there are many kinds of sluts. Nina was obviously a B***tch, so he could just beat her back. But he had to be on guard against Ellie, who secretly hurt people. If she can tell you that Colin likes me today, she might tell you that I'm having an affair with Bode tomorrow. Sandy frowned and turned to look at Bode. Bode's legs were trembling. Under the gaze of the chief, witch doctor, and Sandy, he stammered, I'm innocent with the Lord Messenger. I didn't. Gu Meng Meng laughed and said, yes, of course there's nothing between me and Bode. But the person who started the rumor. It doesn't have to be me and Bode, it could be Maya and Bode. Mandy and Bode, Ellie herself and Bode, or Colin and Bode. The way Sandy looked at Bode was getting stranger and stranger. Bode had a feeling that he could not explain himself. He suddenly looked up at Gu Meng Meng and said, Lord Messenger, did I, accidentally, offend you? Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, you're not that stupid. Chapter 486. Colin also waved his hand seriously and said, I can't either. Gu Meng Meng placed both her hands on her knees and looked at Bode with a stiff neck. She asked, I heard that you shared with Elvis how to admit your mistakes that day. Bode thought for a while and said, yes. The mighty tribe leader said he made you angry and Sandy was coaxing you, so I taught him how to admit his mistakes. Gu Meng Meng asked again, do you usually apologize to Sandy like this at home? Bode nodded his head seriously and said, not only me, males usually apologize like this at home. Gu Meng Meng believed that Bode would not dare to lie to her and his gaze was too sincere. Since it was unintentional, Gu Meng Meng did not pursue the matter any further. She waved her hands and said, forget it, I will not pursue this matter anymore. Bode heaved a long sigh of relief before standing up to Gu Meng Meng and Sandy. Seeing that Sandy was no longer that angry after Gu Mingming's tantrum, he could not help but pat Colin's shoulder and said, "Luckily it was you who thought of this idea, or else I really don't know what to do." Colin scratched his head and said, "As long as they are together, they will not be angry." Gu Mengmeng looked at Sandy and Sandy looked back at Gu Mengmeng. Both of them smiled at the same time. Leo was a little jealous as he swayed his large tail and said, "That's why I said, the few of you should thank Mengmeng for not being a male. Or else, humph." Bode said, "Yes, yes, yes, Colin, quickly thank the great messenger." Colin was stunned and could not react in time. Bode said, "Quickly thank the great messenger for not being a male. Or else, who among the 9 males in our family would be able to snatch her away?" Colin suddenly understood and bowed to Gu Mengmeng and said, "Great messenger, I thank you for not being a male." Gu Mengmeng patted Leah and said, "How many times do you want to play this joke? Didn't Bode already thank you the previous time?" Leah, however, turned his head to look at Sandy in jealousy and said, "Sandy, you should also thank yourself for not being a male." Sandy pointed at her own nose and looked at Leah with a face full of question marks. Leah said, "If you are a male and Mengmeng likes you so much, I will definitely go crazy from jealousy and kill you." Sandy's body trembled, and her face turned pale. "And me?" Elvis's voice was cold as he squeezed his wrist, his bones cracking. Sandy pounced into Gu Mingming's arms and hugged her tightly. "Sobs, sobs, sobs, tribe leader and witch doctor are so scary. Gu Mengmeng, you better abandon them and live with me." Elvis and Lee's faces froze. They gritted their teeth, they really wanted to strangle her to death. Gu Mengmeng turned around and glanced at her husky and Samoyed, saying, "If you continue to show off, both of you will have to sleep outside the cave tonight." Leah threw himself into Gu Mingming's arms, wrapping his furry big tail around Gu Mingming's waist. His long and narrow eyes were filled with affection as he pointed at Elvis and said, "It's all your fault. Why did you scare Sandy for no reason? Look, you've angered Mengmeng, aren't you going to apologize?" Elvis's face darkened. He looked at this scapegoat and clenched his teeth. In the end, he still lowered his head and said, "I was wrong. Gu Mengmeng did not harp on this matter anymore. She just held Sandy's little hand and asked, 'Other than Ellie, what do you think of the other new females in the tribe?' Sandy thought for a while and said, 'They're all very good. Complete females are originally very rare, it's already not bad for a tribe to have 1 or 2. So many of them came to St. Nazir at once, it makes me happy looking at them, aside from the topic. Alright, my babies, are you happy reading today's update? I love it when you guys are smiling the most. If Susu's text can make you guys smile, please leave a comment and let me know because this will make me very very happy. Chapter 487. Gu Mengmeng said, "They used to be the first beauties of the tribe, so it's inevitable that they would be a little arrogant. Did any of them bully you and Maya just because they are complete females?" Sandy shook her head and said, "Sigh, it's strange. They are all complete females, but their personalities are all better than the other. Especially that first beauty that you personally chose, she would smile at me every time she sees me, and speak to me in an amiable manner. Yeah, it's just a little weird, they seem to be imitating you." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback, and suddenly understood. As the messenger of the beast deity, in their eyes, she was probably like a modern little girl who was infatuated with an idol. Give me a XX nose and a XXX chin. In the beast world, there was no such thing as a nose and chin for sale, so she could only get a similar temperament. Alright, if the females here could learn from her, at least it would be pleasant to interact with them. Just that, how long could they last? Speaking of Mandy, Gu Mengmeng suddenly recalled something. She hurriedly took out a bamboo cup from her pocket and handed it to Sandy, saying, "Here, this is for you." Sandy received the cup happily and smiled, saying, Isn't this the cup you gave to the first beauty? I have one too." Gu Mang Mang hooked Sandy's little face and said, "In my eyes, you are the first beauty, no one can be compared to you." Before Gu Mang Mang could finish her sentence, she felt a tightness around her waist and was carried up by Leah. Without any communication, he and Elvis sandwiched her in the middle and walked towards the main venue of the night campfire party. As they walked, they said, "The decorations at the venue are almost done, you have to come over and see where to place that thing from the previous time." Colin also carried Sandy up in a tacit understanding and walked back with Bode. He said, "Look, the great messenger is so busy, you can't keep causing trouble for her. Let's go home first and find a place to place this cup. If not, it'll be useless even if you cry if it gets lost later." The two females were forcefully separated, and when they regained their senses, one was already at the venue and the other in the cave. Gu Mang Mang knew that these two fellows were jealous, blaming her for chatting endlessly the moment she saw Sandy and giving them the cold shoulder. But which woman wasn't the same? Bosom friends always have endless topics to talk about. Gu Mang Mang glanced at the thing Leah was talking about and smiled. "This is called a drum. It's a musical instrument from my place. When I used to work at the amusement park, I learned how to make it from the old man who sold souvenirs. However, my skill was not good, and it was far worse than the old man's. This one is barely usable." Leah took the wooden mallet that Gu Mang Mang had made previously and knocked on the drum. He smiled and said, "Let's perform that song today. It makes one's blood boil and I feel that it suits today's atmosphere very well." Gu Mang Mang took over the drum stick and played with it in her hands. "Previously, it was to help Sandy and Colin to liven up the atmosphere that I risked my voice. Today, since it's the welcoming ceremony, let's throw caution to the wind." Leah smiled and nodded, before asking again, "Then, what should I sing for the second song?" Gu Mang Mang said, "Colin has already mated with Sandy, how could there be a second one? Just sing a song to warm up the place." Chapter 488. Gu Mang Mang frowned and asked, "Singing A Little Happiness again? I'm already traumatized." Leah shook his head and said, "You're not allowed to sing that song anymore." Elvis hugged Gu Mang Mang's waist and said, "Just one song will do, don't tire yourself out." Leah did not insist and only said, "Then who's going to help you carry the drum? Me or Elvis?" Gu Mang Mang felt the increasing pressure from both sides. This was the start of internal strife. Did they have to fight for this kind of physical labor? For the sake of family harmony, Gu Mang Mang said, "Both of you help me carry the drum and be more stable, all right?" Elvis and Leah nodded and did not say a word. At sunset, half the sky was dyed red by the setting sun. Gu Mang Mang asked someone to take a few large pieces of oil from the animal fats and smear them on the wood. Then, she held a torch and lit it up lightly. The wooden pagoda that was as tall as a human was instantly ignited. Gu Mang Mang turned around and raised the torch high up. With a loud shout, with Elvis leading the way, all the males roared towards the sky. The scene was rather spectacular. Gu Mang Mang did not change her clothes because she did not intend to perform initially. She only agreed because she did not want to reject Leah. That cape and shorts had long been lost somewhere and could not be found, so Gu Mang Mang could only wear her normal clothes and stand on the drum. Although it was a little weird, fortunately, according to the standards of the beast world, which part of Gu Mang Mang was not weird? This set of clothes was not that important anymore. Elvis and Leah lifted the drum steadily and Gu Mang Mang sang and danced on the drum. Although her movements were obviously not as energetic as when she proposed to Colin, it was enough to shock those who had just joined Saint Nazaire and were witnessing such a performance for the first time. When Gu Mang Mang finally roared at the top of her lungs, the sound of tearing, Colin stood up and transformed into a bear. He pounded his chest with both hands and roared towards the sky. In just a breath's time, the original tribesmen of Saint Nazaire immediately understood and transformed into beasts, roaring together with Colin. The new tribesmen were influenced and also imitated them to transform into beasts, roaring towards the sky. This act later became a ritual in Saint Nazaire. Every year, when new members joined, Gu Meng Meng would sing Alien once, then the guardian messenger would lead the roar towards the sky. It was said that if we roared together, we would be a family. However, Gu Meng Meng was completely dumbfounded. What was the connection between screaming together and being a family from now on? Is there any scientific evidence? For example, after shouting, the DNA would be shattered, causing genetic recombination, and they would become a family. And the one who added fuel to the fire was Leah. The explanation he gave was, the roars of the males with all their might would be transmitted to the mighty beast deity who had come to listen to the messenger's song, letting the mighty beast deity know of their unity. From then on, they would become the tribe of the messenger that the mighty beast deity recognized. Gu Meng Meng shrugged her shoulders and thought to herself, this is definitely bullshit, but everyone in the beast world believes it. Originally, Leah and Elvis were supposed to slowly place Gu Meng Meng down from the drum amidst the roars of the crowd before saying a few motivational words and starting the barbecue carnival. But when the roars stopped abruptly, there was a sudden change. Chapter 489. Leah. Gu Meng Meng reached out to grab Leah worriedly, but missed. The drum let out a loud thud and rolled to the side. Gu Meng Meng thought she would fall along with the drum, but the strength around her waist was like an iron clamp, locking her body in place. Looking up, she met Elvis's blue eyes. His brows were tightly furrowed, sweat pouring down like rain. He was clearly in pain, but he was forcing himself to hold on. "Hubby, what's wrong? You guys, what's wrong with you guys?" Gu Meng Meng had no idea what was going on. She could only hold on to Elvis's shoulders and stare into his eyes. Elvis was trembling all over, but he still controlled his strength and slowly placed Gu Meng Meng on the ground. Gritting his teeth, he squeezed out a sentence, "Don't run around, it's dangerous." Then, as if he was being pressed down by something, he crawled on the ground, unable to straighten his back no matter how hard he tried. This scene was so familiar. It looked exactly like the others who could not straighten their backs when Elvis released his beast pressure in the past. Gu Meng Meng stood up and looked around, only to realize that no one was standing apart from her. Many orcs were unable to maintain their human forms due to the pressure. There were a few strong ones, but they were all sprawled on the ground like Elvis, unable to get up. Ow 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 ow. The familiar cries made Gu Meng Meng's heart skip a beat. She looked towards the source. It was Heda and the rest. The four little fellows had been tied up with tree vines and were being dragged out of the tribe. Gu Meng Meng could not be bothered with Elvis's instructions and chased after them. But her speed was too slow. By the time she reached the boundary of the tribe, Heda and the rest could no longer be seen. "Heda!" Gu Meng Meng yelled at the top of her lungs, "Qi Xian! Jiaoliu! Jianwu!" None of the children responded to her. Gu Meng Meng plopped onto the ground, her head exploding with a bang. Bullshit messenger of the beast deity, how could she be so helpless at such a time? Gu Meng Meng knew that crying was useless, but she stood rooted to the ground, not knowing which direction to run in. "Come up!" A familiar voice rang out. Gu Meng Meng looked up and saw Ian standing in front of her in his half-orc form. His wings were spread open and he was ready to fly at any time. His forehead was full of sweat and it was obvious that he was suffocating from the strong beast pressure. The bleeding wound on his leg was a ghastly sight, but Gu Meng Meng did not have time to care for him. She just jumped onto Ian's back. The moment Ian caught Gu Meng Meng, he transformed into an eagle owl and flapped his wings to fly into the sky. The higher he got, the more stable Ian became. He circled a few times before flying in a certain direction. At this height, Gu Meng Meng was basically in a state of being blind. She could not see anything, and other than the sound of the wind whistling beside her ears, she had no other senses to use. The only person she could rely on now was Ian, who was carrying her. After flying for 2 days, Gu Meng Meng and Ian arrived at Sauder. Standing at the entrance of Sauder, Gu Meng Meng was already in a daze. After 2 days of non-stop flying, both Ian and Gu Meng Meng were exhausted. Gu Mingming's only hope of saving her son was to hold on. "Are Hedda and the rest here?" Gu Meng Meng asked Ian. Ian shook his head and said in a weak voice, "After we took off, Hedda and the rest were nowhere to be found." Aside from the topic, "Yes, that's right, I was the one who caused trouble. I just could not bear to see Gu Meng Meng live a good life for 2 days and had to torment her. Aren't all mothers-in-law like this?" Chapter 490. Then why did you bring me here? Gu Meng Meng howled hysterically, her tears falling uncontrollably. Ian forced himself to hold on to Gu Mingming's shoulders and said, "If it's a wolf cub, you have to remain calm." Gu Meng Meng forced herself to hold back her tears and looked at Ian stubbornly. She kept telling herself in her heart that she had to be strong, she had to be strong, her sons were still waiting for her to save them. Ian took a deep breath and said, "To be able to use beast pressure to suppress the entire Saint Nazir, he must be at least a 5th level orc, and not someone who just reached 5th level. He must be at least a 5th level middle stage or even a 5th level peak. Under such circumstances, even if you and I find a wolf cub, we won't be able to bring it away. You need reinforcements, 5th level, 5th level." Ian could not hold on any longer, and before he could finish his sentence, his body tilted and he landed beside Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng supported Ian and forced herself to calm down while repeating Ian's words, 5th level orc. "I know a 5th level orc, reinforcements." Coal. Gu Meng Meng suddenly understood what Ian meant. Among all the 5th level orcs she knew, the only one who was willing to help her and had the ability was Coal. Gu Meng Meng used all her strength to support Ian up and walked towards Sauder with difficulty, step by step. Just when she reached the signboard, she saw Coal leading a group of people out to welcome them. Coal leads the Sauder tribesmen to welcome the mighty messenger. Coal stopped 3 steps away from Gu Meng Meng, one knee on the ground, and placed his right hand on his left chest to bow. Gu Meng Meng did not have the same confidence as Ian. When she left this place, she was not very friendly towards Coal. Even because of Leah, she was quite hostile towards Coal and spoke rudely. Back then, she bragged that she would never come to Sauder again and wanted to make Saint Nazir into a brand new messenger tribe, blah 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 blah. Now, would he still be willing to help her? She bit her lower lip. For her sons, what was her face worth? Even if Coal said that he would only help if she lay on the ground and barked like a dog, she would only ask if he wanted her to learn from a Pekingese or a teddy bear. "Coal, help me." Gu Mingming's nose turned sour. She only managed to say these 5 words before her tears fell. Coal frowned and stood up to take Ian from Gu Mingming's body. He handed him over to the person beside him and said, "He looks like he is overly fatigued. Bring him to the stone house to settle down and let him recuperate." The people next to him didn't say anything and directly helped Ian to leave. Coal then turned around and gently wiped away the tears on Gu Mingming's face. He frowned and said, "Sauder is the messenger's tribe and we are your loyal subordinates. As long as it is your command, Coal will definitely execute it to the end. So, Lord Emissary, don't cry, you are our god. If you cry, we don't know what to do." Gu Meng Meng wiped away the tears on her face and looked at Coal with gratitude. "Someone kidnapped my son, but I don't know who it is." He had used his beast pressure to suppress everyone in Saint Nazir, so Ian suspected that the other party was at least a 5th level or above orc. "You're the only 5th level orc I know. Can you help me save my son?" Chapter 491. In the next few days, Gu Meng Meng was arranged to be protected in the core building of solder. Only then did Gu Meng Meng know that Cole was not the only 5th-level orc in solder, but there were 3 of them. The 3 of them took turns to guard Gu Meng Meng, in case the person who kidnapped the little wolves turned around to deal with Gu Meng Meng. And the remaining 2 mobilized all their connections to search for the whereabouts of the little wolves. It was the 3rd day. This was the 3rd day since Gu Meng Meng arrived. Cole dragged his tired body into Gu Meng Meng's room and exchanged information with the person on duty yesterday. The person on duty yesterday immediately went out to continue his search. Meanwhile, Cole walked to Gu Meng Meng and knelt on the ground. He frowned and said in a hoarse voice, "Great messenger, don't worry too much. No news, might be the best news." Gu Meng Meng looked up at Cole. No matter how indifferent she was to Cole, she had already noticed his sunken cheeks and dark circles under his eyes. "These 3 days, it's been hard on all of you." Gu Meng Meng felt a little guilty. She was the one who lost her son, but she could only sit in the house and wait for others to help her find her son. She could not help at all, and the only thing she could do was not to cause trouble. Cole smiled and said, "It's Solder's honor to be able to serve the great messenger. It's also my honor that you can think of me when you are in trouble." Gu Meng Meng shifted her gaze outside the window and asked calmly, "Where's Ian? Is he still not awake?" Cole replied, "He woke up this morning. Although he was very weak, he still flew away." Gu Meng Meng turned to look at Cole and asked, "Flew away?" Cole nodded and said, "He said he will return to St. Nazir first to inform Mighty Elvis and Mighty Leah about your situation, so that they won't be too worried if they can't find you." Gu Meng Meng nodded and felt a little melancholic. She ran away in a moment of panic because of her child. Elvis and Leah must have gone crazy from not being able to find her. She gently touched her collarbone. There was a black wolf mark there. She remembered Elvis saying that if she was in danger, she should hit this mark hard and he would rush over to save her. If she did not continue hammering, Elvis should at least know that she was safe. Cole maintained his kneeling position by Gu Meng Meng's feet. He looked up into her eyes and said, "Great messenger, do you miss Great Elvis a lot?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. "They must be very worried that I suddenly disappeared." Cole smiled. "It seems like Lord Leah is also very important to you." Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "They are all my family, of course they are very important." Cole nodded and smiled. "I, as his elder brother, am happy for him that the great messenger thinks so highly of him. When the little mistress is found, please invite Sir Elvis and Sir Leah to stay in Solder." After all, this place was relatively safer. "We can prevent this incident from happening again." Gu Meng Meng met Cole's eyes and asked, "Is this your condition to help me find my son?" Chapter 492. Cole's suggestion did not receive any response from Gu Meng Meng, and after that day, Cole did not bring it up again. After another 3 days, when Cole staggered into Gu Meng Meng's room covered in blood, Gu Meng Meng jumped in fright. Cole staggered to Gu Meng Meng and knelt down on one knee. He held up a ball of blood with both hands and presented it to Gu Meng Meng. Lifting his blood-stained face, he smiled and said, little master. I brought it back for you." A trickle of red flowed down his forehead, past his eyelashes and dripped onto the floor like a bloody tear. Gu Meng Meng's hands trembled as she took the lump of meat that was dyed red with blood from Cole's hands. Before she could see clearly what it was, Cole had already collapsed at Gu Meng Meng's feet. Gu Meng Meng was so frightened that she lost her head. The guards at the door hurried in and heaved a sigh of relief when they realized that there were no intruders. "Great messenger, don't be afraid. We will carry leader Cole out now." Gu Meng Meng looked at the blood-stained Cole and then at the ball of blood in her hands. "There's no need for that. Go get the witch doctor and boil some water." "Yes." The people at Solder never questioned Gu Meng Meng's orders. They just carried them out. Not long after, which Dr. Dylan rushed over. He checked on Gu Meng Meng the moment he entered the room. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with her, he heaved a sigh of relief and started to treat Cole. The person guarding at the door brought in boiled water and Gu Meng Meng started to carefully wash the blood lump in her arms. When basin after basin of clear water was replaced with blood water, the blood lump's original appearance was finally revealed. Qi Xian. Even though he was quietly closing his eyes and not moving, Gu Meng Meng could clearly tell which son was in her arms. Baby, I am Mummy. Gu Meng Meng held back her tears and gently wiped Qi Xuan's body with a beast skin. She called out softly, "Good little Xian, don't scare Mummy. Quickly open your eyes and look at Mummy, alright?" No matter how she called out to him, Qi Xian just lay there motionlessly. If not for the fact that his pulse was still beating, Gu Meng Meng would have suspected that her son was dead. She had carefully examined Qi Xuan's body. There were no obvious wounds, so the blood should not be Qi Xuan's, but Cole's. Gu Meng Meng carried Qi Xian to Dylan and asked, "How is Cole?" Dylan shook his head and said, "I don't know what kind of enemy could actually injure clan leader Cole to this extent. 9 of his bones were broken, and there were countless external injuries. The worst part is the laceration on his abdomen. His internal organs can be seen, and the wound is black. It seems like he was poisoned." More than half of the blood on Cole's body had been washed away, but the wound was too big. The moment the old blood was washed away, new blood immediately flowed out. The beast skin on the bed was already soaked. It would be strange if he didn't die from this. Gu Meng Meng asked Dylan, "Do you have an antidote?" Dylan looked at Cole's wound and deliberated for a moment before saying, "This poison is not very serious. With Leader Cole's abilities, he should be able to digest it himself. The main problem now is to stop the bleeding. If the bleeding can't be stopped, I'm afraid it's impossible to save him." Gu Meng Meng handed Qi Xian over to Dylan. "Help me check on him too. Cole's injury, let me try." Chapter 493. Gu Meng Meng did have a theoretical method. As for actual practice, she had only observed Leah suture Sandy's partner Adali's wound. But now that Leah was not around, if she did not do anything, Cole would be dead meat. Her hands trembling, Gu Meng Meng suppressed the fear in her heart and used one hand to stabilize the exposed flesh, while the other hand began to suture. Or perhaps she should be thankful that Cole was in a deep coma, or else Gu Meng Meng's method of suturing would probably kill Cole to death. Although the process was a little complicated, Gu Meng Meng finally managed to fix Cole's wound back in place. After asking for a clean boiled beast skin, Gu Meng Meng wrapped Cole up like a mummy. After settling Cole, Gu Meng Meng turned back to look at the dumbfounded Dylan and asked, "What's wrong?" Dylan suddenly snapped out of his trance and said, "The great messenger's medical skills are really miraculous and amazing." Gu Meng Meng waved her hands and said tiredly, "Save the flattery. How is my son?" Dylan replied, "Little Master did not suffer any external injuries. I have checked his internal organs and found nothing wrong with them. He is in a coma, it might be due to poison. But I am afraid we will only know what kind of poison it is when Leader Cole wakes up." Gu Meng Meng nodded and hugged Qi Xian in her arms. "Then don't go back to stay for this period of time. I remember that there is an empty room beside mine. You can stay here first so that it will be more convenient to deal with any emergencies." "Yes, sir," Dylan replied respectfully and left the room. Gu Meng Meng carried Qi Xian and sat by the window. She gently stroked his back and said, "Little Xian, be good. You must be safe, understand? You must get better quickly and then we can go find your other brothers. Mummy still wants to see you all grow up, evolve, mate and have babies." Cole remained unconscious for half a month. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Gu Mengmeng carrying Qi Xian in her arms and lying on the side of his bed. A pair of soft hands were placed on his wrists. Great messenger. Cole moved slightly. The sharp pain in his abdomen made him frown and cry out in a low voice. Gu Mengmeng woke up with a start. She sat up and stared straight at Cole. They stared at each other for a long time before returning to her senses. Gu Mengmeng reached out to touch Cole's forehead and realized that he no longer had a fever. She then heaved a sigh of relief and said, "You're finally awake." Great messenger. Cole wanted to say something but was interrupted by Gu Mengmeng. You've been in a coma for more than half a month. You've been relying on honey water to maintain your strength. You must be very weak now. Although I have a lot of questions to ask you, I'm not in a hurry. Lie down first. I'll get someone to bring you some food. We'll talk about the rest later. With that, Gu Mengmeng placed Qi Xian by Cole's bedside. Help me look after my son. Cole smiled gently and said, all right. Gu Mengmeng turned around and went out. As she called Dylan in to check on Cole's body, she instructed the guards outside to prepare some light food and fruits. Chapter 494. Gu Mengmeng prepared sweet potato porridge for Cole and added minced meat. She also cut a small plate of fruits and passed it to Cole. Cole wanted to take it from her but he could not even lift his hands. Gu Mengmeng scooped a spoonful of porridge and blew on it to warm it before bringing it to Cole's mouth. You were injured because you saved my son. Give me a chance to take care of you. Consider it as compensation. Cole did not reject her and did not say a word. He just smiled and finished the food Gu Mengmeng brought to his mouth. This was not the first time a female fed him like this. But it was the first time he felt a warmth that nourished his entire body. After eating, Gu Mengmeng wanted to carry Qi Xian up from the bed but Cole held her wrist gently. He waved his hand and said, you must be exhausted these few days, right? Let him sleep beside me for a while. You can also rest. Gu Mengmeng pushed Cole's hand away and carried Qi Xian in her arms. I will not feel at ease if my son is not in my arms. I will carry him. Cole did not stop her. He smiled and said, this is the first time I have seen a female like you being so concerned about a male cub. He is clearly not the eldest son nor the youngest son. Gu Mengmeng knew the tradition of the Snow Fox tribe. The eldest son would inherit the position of tribe leader while the youngest son would inherit the authority of the witch doctor. So she only cared about these two sons. The flesh that fell from my body is a treasure in every aspect. It has nothing to do with the ranking. Cole's gaze was a little complicated. She could not tell what he was thinking about. In the end, he just nodded silently. Then, without waiting for Gu Mengmeng to ask, he went straight to the point. The one who kidnapped the little master is Ellie. The power behind her is the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Ellie? Why? Cole replied, my initial guess is that she wants to use the little master to lure you to the Snake King Valley. But the mighty one in the Snake King Valley has no interest in unifying the beast world. Otherwise, he would not have sealed himself off from the Snake King Valley for so many years. So, I suspect that all these are Li's personal decisions and she was the one who wanted to lure you to the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. The last time Ellie surrendered to Sauter, Cole rejected Ellie because of her. At that time, Ellie gave her a piece of scale with simplified Chinese characters written on it. She could tell that it was a fake at one glance. At that time, Ellie mentioned that the real one was in the Snake King Valley. Therefore, her motive right from the start was to lure him to the Snake King Valley. It was just that she wasn't very curious about that information, so she didn't take the bait. So she changed her target to the wolf pups. What was his purpose? Everyone would have a motive for doing things. deceiving her to go to the Snake King Valley, and then what? Moreover, since she had the ability to kidnap the wolf cub, why didn't she kidnap him directly? Wasn't it easier to deal with a female than to control 4 wolf pups? Gu Mengmeng really could not understand. Frowning, Gu Mengmeng looked up at Cole and said, I want to make a trip to the Snake King Valley. Chapter 495. But my son is there. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Cole forced himself to sit up and said, I'll go on your behalf. Gu Mengmeng looked at the blood seeping out of his abdomen and said, You're already so injured, how can you go? Moreover, that's my son, there's no reason for you to take the risk for me. Cole did not loosen his grip on Gu Mengmeng's wrist, as if he was afraid that she would immediately run to the Snake King Valley. He frowned, but not because of his bleeding wound. I'm a 5th level beast, I'm already like this just by getting close to the borders of the Snake King Valley. What can you do even if you go? Gu Mengmeng said, I'm the messenger of the beast deity, maybe he will do me a favor. Cole shook his head and said, in the entire beast world, everyone is afraid of the title of messenger of the beast deity, except for him. Gu Mengmeng asked, why? Cole said, he's the son of the previous messenger of the beast deity and has lived for 1,000 years. Some people say that he has already transformed into a dragon and become a true god, an existence on par with the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng forced a smile and said, since he's colleagues with my beast father, then as a junior, if I visit him. I should, Cole said, I can't let you take the risk. Believe me, I will definitely bring the other 3 little masters back, I will definitely. Gu Mengmeng supported Cole and said, lie down first, don't be agitated. I'm not a rash person, even if I have to save someone, I will make preparations before going. Hearing Gu Mengmeng's words, Cole finally relaxed a little and laid down slowly. He said, give me some time, I will recover as soon as possible. Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and did not continue talking about going to the Snake King Valley. She just asked, how did you save Qi? If you're not tired, can you tell me? Cole nodded and his voice was very weak, as if the struggle just now had exhausted too much of his energy. But he did not want to disappoint Gu Mengmeng, so he forced himself to say, in the beast world, 5th level beasts are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. A male beast that has reached this level cannot be a nobody. Those few days, the 3 of us took turns to go out and visit these 5th level beasts one by one. In the end, I set my target on the Snake King Valley. Of course I didn't dare to offend Snake, my original target was a Group 5 Snake Beast Wabiai in the Snake King Valley. But I had just reached the outskirts of the Snake King Valley when I met Ai Li and saw the little masters who were tied up by her. Gu Mengmeng frowned and asked, alone? Cole shook his head and said, there were a few other males and some of them looked familiar. They should have come to solder together with you. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Those who came to solder with her, weren't they from Saint Nazir? Cole continued, she has a very strong male with her. I can't tell where he came from and I don't know him either. All I know is that he's extremely powerful. Even I can only barely fight him to a draw. If not for a tiger beast charging out at the critical moment, I might not have been able to bring little Master Qi back. Tiger beast? Cole nodded and said, in the chaos, I only heard some deity, someone, saying sorry to you. Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a moment before asking, official Su Xian. Cole recalled for a moment and nodded. Gu Mengmeng asked, and then? What happened to him? Cole took a deep breath and said, his chest was torn apart by Ai Li and he died from eating his heart. Digression, today's update was completed again. Chapter 496. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly before slowly releasing them. She said, killing my tribesmen and hurting my son, ha. I really became Mr. Dongguo for once and saved a frozen snake. Cole sighed and hesitated for a moment before placing his hand over Gu Mingming's. He said, I will recover as soon as possible. Once I recover, I will bring my tribesmen to the Snake King Valley to find Snake. Even if he is the Snake King, he would not dare to go against the entire beast world. Gu Mengmeng retracted her hand and took a step back without anyone noticing. She said, didn't you say that it is very dangerous to offend the Snake King Valley? Cole smiled and pretended not to notice Gu Mingming's distancing. He said, for the great messenger, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. No need. You've already done enough for me. I can't drag you down any further. Recuperate well, tomorrow. I will set off for Saint Nazaire. Cole frowned. No way, it is too dangerous. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Don't forget, I am the messenger of the beast deity. I have the protection of the flame demons. If they are not willing to return my son to me, I will burn down the entire Snake King Valley. Cole said, if Little Master is also in the Snake King Valley, he will be accidentally injured. Gu Mengmeng did not reply to Cole. She just turned around and said, helping me to this point is enough. Have a good rest. Gu Mengmeng pushed the door open and left. During this period of time, Cole was unconscious. She gave up her room for Cole to stay in while she stayed in a slightly further but quieter room. Looking at Gu Mingming's departing back view, Cole slowly sat up straight. He lowered his head to look at the wound on his abdomen. With a disappointed gaze, he muttered, is this degree still not enough? A figure leaped in seductively. Her long and slender fingers gently brushed across Cole's abdomen. That cold touch was completely different from Gu Mingming's warmth. Cole frowned in annoyance and swatted away the slender hand that was rubbing his wound. He turned his gaze to the side and revealed an impatient expression. The hand that had been slapped away did not touch him again. Instead, it gently cupped its chin and moved its face closer to Cole's abdomen. It stuck out its tongue and licked the blood that seeped out from Cole's wound. A snake tail coiled around Cole's waist in an S shape, supporting his body and arching him up, like a lazy king looking down on everything. Ellie twisted her waist and slid upward slowly. With a seductive expression, her snake tail slowly entered Cole's beast-skin dress and wrapped around his thighs. Leaning forward, she displayed her beautiful body and said in a teasing tone, she doesn't know what's good for her, why do you have to be so persistent with her? In order to gain her trust, she had actually injured herself so badly. But in the end, didn't she still have to leave? Why don't you give it to me easily? At least, I will treat you sincerely. Cole strangled Ellie's neck and stretched out his arm, increasing the distance between them. He frowned in disdain and said with a disdainful gaze, she is the messenger of the beast deity. How dare you compare yourself to her? You overestimate yourself. Ellie almost suffocated and her gaze became even more dazed. Her hands gently wrapped around Cole's arm that was strangling her neck and rubbed it back and forth, saying, you are indeed Lord Cole. This bloodthirsty look is really captivating. Please take my life, it belongs to you. Cole sneered and flung his arm, throwing Ellie onto the ground. He took out a piece of beast skin and wiped his fingers in disgust. He said coldly, you are so lowly that it makes me disgusted. Don't say that you belong to me. You are not worthy. Aside from the topic. Chapter 497. Ellie did not get angry. She moved her body and climbed onto Cole's body again. She peeked her head out from Cole's shoulder and her hands roamed restlessly on Cole's body. She stuck out her tongue and whispered into Cole's ear, she said she wants to leave tomorrow, will you let her go? Thinking of Gu Mengmeng, Cole's expression changed slightly. His gaze became gentler and the corners of his lips curled up a little. He said, "It was not easy to snatch her over, how can I let her go?" Ellie said, "Since she wants to see her little wolf pups so badly, why not lock her up with those wolf pups?" Cole looked at Ellie coldly and said, "She is my noble owner and you actually want to lock her up? Are you courting death?" Ellie's body trembled and her face was full of infatuation. She said, "But if we don't lock her up, how can we stop her from leaving?" Cole turned around and sat back on the bed. He frowned and said, "That damn bird, if not for the fact that Agu might be suspicious and kept it as a backup, I would have killed it directly. If that was the case, Elvis and that good brother of mine should be searching around aimlessly like headless flies instead of concentrating on attacking Sauter." Ellie coiled her snake tail and snuggled beside Cole's feet. She placed her fair arms gently on Cole's thighs and her dark green hair spread over Cole's knees. She tilted her head and looked up at Cole. She said, "I heard that Elvis leveled up again when he was fighting with the 5th level beast you sent. It has only been half a year since he mated and he actually broke through 2 levels consecutively. TSK TSK TSK, what a top-notch product." As Ellie said, she stuck out her tongue. Her snake eyes straightened and she revealed a greedy smile. Cole pinched her lower jaw and laughed in disdain and sarcasm. He said, "I asked you to seduce him, but what happened in the end? You didn't even touch his belt, right? If you don't have enough skills, you won't be able to eat him no matter how top-notch he is." Ellie frowned in grievance. She said in a demonic voice, "That blockhead is so stubborn. He can't see anyone other than Gu Meng Meng. No matter how hard I tried to please him, he didn't even look at me. Even that brother of yours." Cole sneered and pushed Ellie away. "With Gu Meng Meng around, you are indeed too inconspicuous." With that, Cole strode away, leaving behind only one sentence. "I still have use for those 3 wolf pups. Use the right amount of poison, don't kill them." Allie shook her body and answered with a yes before climbing out of the window. Cole sorted out his emotions. When he pushed open the door, he already looked weak and concerned. He held onto the wall and walked to Gu Mingming's room, knocking on the door. With Qi Xian in her arms, Gu Mengmeng pushed open the door and was a little surprised to see Cole. "Why aren't you lying on the bed? Why are you walking around? What if the wound opens up again?" Gu Mengmeng said as she held onto Cole's arm and led him into the house. Cole smiled warmly and said to Gu Mengmeng, "Great messenger, if you must leave Sauter tomorrow, please let Cole accompany you." Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole's wound and frowned. "How are you going to escort them with your injuries? It's better for me to stay here and recuperate. I'll get someone else to send me off." Chapter 498. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "But your injury." Cole took 2 steps forward agitatedly and said, "I'm fine." His wound split open and Cole was in a lot of pain. Gu Mengmeng went forward to support him and frowned. "Look at you, still trying to be brave." Cole took the opportunity to hug Gu Mengmeng. He circled her waist with one hand and hooked her chin with the other. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with deep and meaningful eyes and said, "Ah Gu, why are you so concerned about me? Actually, you have me in your heart too, right? Although I can't leave my mark on your body, I will give you all my loyalty. You will accept it, right?" Gu Mingming's chin was held by Cole as she stared at him quietly. Her eyes were misty and her thin lips moved slightly. "Cole. Air." Cole's smile bloomed on his lips as he kissed Gu Mingming's neck gently. He replied gently, "Yes, I will always be by your side." "Aw Gu, I like you so much. Can you stay by my side? Let me always be by your side and take care of you, alright?" Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and didn't reply. Cole looked up and blew a gentle breath at Gu Mengmeng. Then, he stared intently into Gu Mingming's eyes and repeated hypnotically, I have your favorite big tail. It's even bigger and softer than Li's. My body is also stronger than your wolf companion, so I can satisfy you better during mating. A perfect male like me is willing to crawl at your feet and pledge allegiance to you, waiting for you to pamper me. What are you still hesitating for? Isn't it good to have me and have me? Gu Mengmeng slowly lowered her eyelids as if she had lost consciousness. Cole leaned forward and wanted to kiss Gu Mingming's lips. But before he could do so, he heard Gu Mingming's cold voice. You said, who are you stronger than? Cole was taken aback. He looked down and realized that Gu Mengmeng was holding Ellie's scale against his wound. Ah, Gu. Cole called out softly. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and said, I don't remember allowing you to call me by such a disgusting name. Cole's frozen expression only lasted for a moment before he quickly calmed down. He then took a step back and lowered his head respectfully. Great messenger. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. Surprised. The fox's seductive fragrance has no effect on me. Cole shook his head. It only proves that I am not good enough to move the great messenger. Gu Mengmeng nodded approvingly and said, compared to that vixen of mine, you are really too lacking. Cole clenched his fists instinctively and looked up to meet Gu Mingming's smiling eyes. He slowly relaxed and lowered his head, saying, compared to Sir Leah, I am still lacking in many aspects. Gu Mengmeng patted Cole's shoulder lightly and said, since you have already said so much, stop pretending. To be able to endure until now before using the fox's seductive fragrance on me. You can be considered to be quite patient. Cole frowned and glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng. You have been guarding against me from the start. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, I didn't when I first arrived. When Ian asked me to ask for your help, I really treated you as a life-saving straw, Cole, then. Chapter 499. Cole did not seem to understand as he stood on the spot, questioning Gu Mengmeng with his gaze. Gu Mengmeng smiled and lowered her head to look at her son in her arms. Her gaze and tone were so gentle that one would not be guarded against her. Who would risk their lives for someone they have no relatives or friends, and not even ask for something? It's not like Guanyin Bodhisattva who is merciful to the world. Cole frowned and asked, but Sauter is the messenger's tribe, it's only right to listen to the messenger's orders. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, Sauter is following the previous messenger of the beast deity, not me. And, it's impossible to be absolutely loyal to a legend from 1,000 years ago. If you are really so loyal to the messenger of the beast deity, then the current leader of Sauter should be your big brother, and Leah should be here as a witch doctor. Just you. What right do you have to be the leader? Cole frowned and his eyes were filled with violence. When he stared at Gu Mengmeng, he could not hide his anger, as if, Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, Why? Did I step on your sore spot? Ah, so this matter is not only the nightmare of my vixen, it's also your inner demon, right? Cole clenched his fists tightly as he stared at Gu Mengmeng with a frown and said word by word, I am the leader of Sauter. Gu Mengmeng nodded and admitted, yes, you are. Don't worry, my vixen has no designs on Sauter. You can keep this broken tribe for yourself, we don't want it. Broken tribe. Cole took a step forward and pinched Gu Mingming's jaw. He smiled coldly and squinted his eyes, saying, he doesn't care about Sauter, then what does he care about? Saint Nazir, or you? Unfortunately, he can't protect either of them. I will destroy Saint Nazir, then, possess you. Gu Mengmeng smiled and did not resist. She just looked at Cole and said, you are indeed not afraid of the beast deity. Cole laughed coldly and said, since the beast deity has never loved me, why should I be afraid of him? Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, that's true, a beast deity that has never manifested his spirit is indeed not worth being afraid of. However, you should be afraid of me. Cole frowned before smiling again. He caressed Gu Mingming's little face with his thumb and said with a devilish affection, "Why should I be afraid of you?" Not only did Gu Mengmeng not retreat, she even moved closer to Cole. Cole did not dodge and allowed Gu Mingming's little face to come close to the tip of his nose. There were many emotions that he could not understand in those clear big eyes, but he was mesmerized by them. Every action of hers made him crazily want to have her. This was the kind of female that should stand by his side. Don't you have any doubts? Since I've already seen through it, why should I stay by your side and continue acting instead of leaving? Cole frowned and stared at Gu Mengmeng without saying a word. There are so many places to live. Why did I choose this small room? Cole scanned his surroundings warily but did not discover anything unusual. Are you suspecting that I'm bluffing? Gu Mengmeng suddenly slapped Cole's hand away and turned to sit on the side of the bed. At the same time, the wall on Cole's left started to loosen and then collapse with a loud bang. Dust flew everywhere like billowing smoke. Chapter 500. Gu Mengmeng gently caressed the little snow fox's neck, as if she was thinking about something. She looked up at Cole and asked, "Where are my sons? Return them to me." Cole was obviously taken aback when he first saw the little snow fox, but he quickly regained his composure, as if he was not afraid of Gu Mingming's hand on the little fox's neck. He just looked at Gu Mengmeng attentively and said, "The little masters are very safe. As long as you are willing to stay by my side, I can let you see them anytime." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and looked at the snow fox she was pinching. "Now, are you in a position to negotiate with me?" Cole smiled and said, "I have already reached the peak of 5th level for a long time. Even if my partner dies now, I will not lose my life due to the backlash of the contract. If you are willing to kill her personally, I will treat it as you being jealous because you do not like other females around me. To me, it should be a kind of reward." Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "Although the backlash of the mating contract will not take your life, it can still severely injure you. By then, do you think you are still Elvis's opponent?" Cole did not seem to take Gu Mingming's threat seriously and said, "I have no opinion on you killing Jillian, but I am afraid the one who is reluctant is Leah." Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and turned to look at Leah. "Why?" "First love." Leah turned his head away awkwardly and looked at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eye. He nodded slightly and said, "We were engaged before." Gu Mengmeng lifted her chin and Leah immediately added, "But I do not like her. The engagement is set according to the tribe rules. The witch doctor must marry the female from the tribe leader's family to maintain the stable relationship between the deity and the regime." Gu Mengmeng did not pursue the matter and just smiled. "You don't have to explain, I believe you." Li's smile warmed up and he hugged Gu Mingming's waist and kissed her little face. He rubbed his forehead against Gu Mingming's and said in a low voice, "Mengmeng, I miss you so much." Gu Mengmeng patted Li's back and said, "I miss you and Elvis very much too, but we have to settle Cole and save the little wolves first." Leah nodded. His slender hands turned into sharp claws in front of Gu Mengmeng and pierced towards Jillian, as if he was trying to prove to her that he had no feelings for this little fox. "Leah." Gu Mengmeng stopped Leah and shook her head lightly. "It's not my style to kill an unconscious female." Leah shrugged his shoulders helplessly. "I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng walked to Elvis's side and hugged him again. Then, she said, "It must have been tough during this period, right? After we save our son, I'll make you a delicious tonic." Elvis's voice was a little hoarse as he gently rubbed Gu Mingming's little head. Then, he pulled her into his arms and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 501. Cole nodded and said, "That makes sense. But if I die, you will never be able to see those 3 little wolf pups again." If you don't mind, you can come and kill me now. You don't have to go through so much trouble to activate the mating contract. Just use that snake scale in your hand and cut me into pieces, I will not dodge. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and said, your life is not as valuable as my son's. Cole took a step forward and wanted to hold Gu Mengmeng's little hand, but his wrist was grabbed by Elvis. The two of them stared at each other and refused to give in. Cole suddenly smiled and said, Gu, actually, what's wrong with staying in solder? Everything here belongs to you, including me and them. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and took a step back. She was a little disgusted and said, they originally belonged to me, it's the same no matter where I am. As for you, I don't want dirty things. I am dirty things. Then what about Leah? What about a fellow who had an affair with his father's beloved concubine and was banished from the tribe? Cole looked at Leah with a hideous expression and revealed an indescribable smile. Leah clenched his fists tightly but could not say a word. Gu Mengmeng frowned and went forward to give Cole a tight slap. She said, watch your mouth, my vixen is not such a person. Cole did not seem to be angered by this slap and instead laughed even more wildly. You are angry from embarrassment, right? Everyone in the tribe saw whether he is such a person or not. It's him, he was the one who angered our father to death, broke the tribe rules and brought shame to Sodder. That's why he was banished. You didn't know anything and you actually took him in as your beast pet. You! Gu Mengmeng raised her arm to slap Cole but her body was hugged from behind. Turning back, Gu Mengmeng met Li's long and affectionate eyes. That pair of eyes was misty and he looked at Gu Mengmeng quietly. He said, Mengmeng, I didn't. Gu Mengmeng nodded and pulled Leah into her arms. I know you didn't. Cole laughed loudly and shook his arm forcefully, freeing himself from Elvis's grip. He leaned against the door frame and looked at Leah. His tone was so harsh that it was unbearable. Gu, you've actually enjoyed Leah long ago, haven't you? It's just that he's the same as me, someone who's mated with another female, so he can't leave a mark on you. That's why you're telling others that he's your beast pet, right? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly recalled that before the incident that day, Elvis had purposely found an excuse to leave the cave to create an opportunity for her and Leah to mate. At that time, she had told Leah, I will not mate with you. At that time, Lee's reaction was a little lonely, but more of helplessness and responsibility. He remained silent for a moment and only said to her, I am already satisfied to be able to stay by your side. As for other things, I don't care. At that time, Gu Mengmeng thought that he was referring to mating and having children when he said he did not care. Now, it seemed that this was included as well. The more she doted on Leah, the more rumors would spread. No one would believe that she did not mate with Leah, so the fact that she did not have Lee's mark on her body became the evidence that Leah had committed that crime in the past. Leah pulled Gu Mengmeng and hugged her gently in his arms. I don't care what the truth is in other people's eyes. I only care about you. So, don't be affected by him. It's enough that you know I'm innocent. Aside from the topic, remember that Leah wanted Gu Mengmeng to do a body check that day. Leah said, aren't you going to check if your beast pet is clean? Chapter 502. Gu Mengmeng patted Li's back, then turned around to look at the giant bird circling in the sky. Although she had only sat on it once, she could still recognize that it was Ian. Gu Mengmeng smiled, looks like it's a done deal. Cole suddenly turned around and looked at Ian in the sky. He frowned and said, Gu, what are you planning? Gu Mengmeng's smile slowly faded, and finally froze into a cold expression. I'll give you one last chance, return my son to me, then we'll leave and pretend nothing happened. Cole, leave. Where are you going without my permission? Gu Mengmeng raised her brows, then there's nothing to talk about. Cole raised his head, determined to win. Gu Meng Meng took 2 steps back and sat back on the bed. She took out a small bamboo tube from under the blanket, opened the lid and poured it into the little snow fox's mouth. Cole instantly felt something burning in his chest. He instinctively wanted to go forward to stop Gu Meng Meng, but was blocked by Elvis, who did not budge an inch. Gu Meng Meng threw the small bamboo tube to Cole. "Smell it, maybe you know what this is." Cole put it in front of his nose and sniffed, instantly frowning. "Amulet used to wash away the mating mark." Gu Meng Meng nodded. "Yeah, luckily our tribe had a completely heartless negative example, or else I might have to kill someone to restrain you today." Cole knew he did not have much time. The backlash from the contract would come very quickly. He had to get rid of Elvis before it happened. But Elvis was already a 5th-level orc. He could not be defeated with just a simple release of pressure. To fight for more time, Cole suddenly launched an attack on Elvis. Each move was deadly, definitely not like Damagua, who was displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Elvis was rich in battle experience, but Cole was not inferior to him. After a few moves, both of them were badly mutilated, their wounds so deep that their bones could be seen. Gu Meng Meng frowned. They were both 5th level, but Cole was still suffering from the backlash from the mating contract, yet he could still injure Elvis so badly. He had underestimated the enemy. Gu Meng Meng clenched her teeth and gave Leah a look. Leah immediately understood and took out a small beast skin bag from the pocket of her beast skin dress. Gu Meng Meng took it and sniffed it. She smirked coldly. Leah quickly joined the battle. Although his level was not high, with their many years of teamwork, he was able to cooperate well. He left a few wounds on Cole's body that were not fatal but were enough to restrict his movements. Gu Meng Meng saw the opportunity and roared, "Disperse." Elvis and Leah retreated to the sides in tacit understanding. Gu Meng Meng shook the beast skin in her hands and the red powder danced in the air. After shaking it, Gu Meng Meng immediately covered her mouth and nose with her arms and turned to run. But before she could take a step, she felt the weight on her waist lighten and she was pulled into an embrace. It was mixed with the smell of blood, but also had a warmth that made her feel at ease. Compared to Cole's uncontrollable howls, the moans above Gu Meng Meng's head made her even more worried. Raising her head, she met with a pair of blue eyes, slightly reproachful, but more heartache. "Battles between males are very dangerous, you are not allowed to rush up in the future." Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently. Seeing some chili powder fall on Elvis's wounds, she could not help but feel heartache. Does it hurt?" Chapter 503. "Let me help you treat your wounds first," Gu Meng Meng said. Elvis shook his head and glanced sideways at Cole, who was rolling on the ground. "I am not as powerful as him. If I miss this chance, I will never win." With that, Elvis handed Gu Meng Meng over to Leah. He ignored the wounds all over his body and continued to fight with Cole. Elvis had as much chili powder as Cole had on him. Both of them were severely injured to the bone. Neither of them had the upper hand. Gu Meng Meng's heart ached at the sight. She regretted her stupid move. It was such a loss to sacrifice 800 men to kill 1,000 enemies. It was not worth it at all. But luckily, Elvis won in the end. He tore off Cole's arm and slammed his knee downwards. The bones in Cole's calf gave off a crisp sound of bone breaking. With a miserable howl, Cole completely lost the ability to retaliate. He could only lie on the ground and twitch. Actually, Gu Meng Meng was not used to such a bloody scene. But for her son, she had to endure it even if she was afraid. Cole wriggled his body and forced himself to sit up. He leaned against the corner of the wall in a strange position. He looked at Leah with a ferocious gaze as if he was a devil that had crawled out from hell. He wrote while blood flowed out of his mouth. "So what if you kill me? Haha, ha, you will forever be Sauter's sinner, the sinner that angered father to death, everything you have, everything you cherish, will eventually belong to me. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng gently and used his body to block her view. He said coldly, "You are wrong. I have nothing. I have never owned anything in this world. The only lucky thing is that I am Gu Mingming's possession." Cole bared his teeth. His gaze was bloodthirsty. He touched the old wound on his abdomen that Gu Mengmeng had stitched up. Because of the fight, the wound that was not stitched up properly was torn open again. But Cole did not care at all. He just laughed coldly and said, "Ah, Gu will also be mine." Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole's words. She just separated herself from Lee's arms to take care of Elvis. She knew that Leah and Cole must have some old scores to settle. And all she had to do was to silently support Leah. That was enough. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. He then slowly walked to Cole and squatted down to look him in the eye. One was as white as snow. If he was covered in dirt, the difference was obvious. Chapter 504. It's not your cubs, why are you so nervous? Cole sneered. Ah, you want to pretend to be a good person in front of Gu. It's no use, she won't fall for it. She just told me, no one would risk their lives for someone who is not related to them, there must be a condition. Leah smiled. You don't have to care about my motive, you just have to know what kind of situation you are in now. Cole smiled too. Do you think I'm a fool like you? You guys are not killing me now because you haven't found the little wolves. Once I hand them over, you guys will use all means to torture me. Leah nodded. It's really hard to be kind in front of you. Since you don't believe me, let's put it in another way. Lee's smile was still calm and indifferent. He strangled Cole's neck with both hands. Hand over the little wolves, or else I will make death an extravagant hope for you. Cole wanted to say something, but his throat was being strangled by Leah. He could not make a sound. Leah seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said, "Ah, are you waiting for your guards?" Cole narrowed his eyes, only to see Leah beckoning towards the door. Then, Oratin dragged something covered in blood and walked out of the door. He couldn't see anything else clearly, but that foxtail was very eye-catching. Leah gave Cole some time to think. Or, are you waiting for those warriors to attack Saint Nazir while Elvis and I are here to save Meng Meng? Yeah, they should have reached Saint Nazir by now. But what should we do? There's not a single person in Saint Nazir now. All the warriors in our tribe are in Sauder. In other words, Sauder is under our control now. You're lying. Cole could no longer keep his expression straight. He leaned forward and wanted to grab Leah. Leah stood up slowly and took a step back. He frowned. I'm sorry, but Meng Meng doesn't like others touching me. Cole did not give up and looked outside. But he realized that there was really no one on his side in his field of vision. Impossible, it's impossible for you to know. All the arrangements were directly ordered by me, I don't know your orders, I just know your character. Leo looked down at Cole and said, you purposely used your beast pressure to suppress Saint Nazir so that Meng Meng would take the initiative to seek help from you. After all, you are the only 5th level orc that she knows. Therefore, Meng Meng's appearance must have made you very proud. But you also know that Elvis and I will definitely come looking for you. Once Meng Meng sees us, she will not rely on you anymore. So the best way is to get rid of us, get rid of Saint Nazir, get rid of everything she can rely on, and let you be her only crutch. This is just a reenactment of the method used to deal with me. How could I not have guessed it? Cole narrowed his eyes and sneered. My 9th brother has really grown up. Leo looked down and said calmly, it's just a lesson learned. However, I can tell you that your warriors most likely won't be coming back. After all, You, who are at the peak of the 5th level, were already in such a state from the backlash of the mating contract. They, who are only at the 4th level, may not be able to withstand it. Chapter 505. Leah did not kill Cole, but brought him to Sauter's dungeon. Gu Mengmeng did not know how Leah would force Cole to reveal the whereabouts of the little wolves, but it would not be a beautiful and harmonious scene. Gu Mengmeng stayed behind to take care of Elvis and Qi Xian. She placed them on the bed, then used a small basin of clear water to clean Elvis's wounds. While cleaning, she said, "Are you a fool? The wound is so deep, and you even rushed into the chili. How painful is that?" Elvis smiled and held Gu Mingming's little hand lightly. "As long as you are fine, this pain is nothing." Gu Mengmeng saw that Elvis did not let go of her hand, so she could only sit by the bed obediently. She carefully avoided Elvis's wounds and asked, "What happened after I left? Why did Dylan help Leah to pass the message?" "Not long after you left, that beast pressure disappeared." Everyone's beast pressure is different, so Leah easily guessed that it was Cole's trick. He wanted to stop you, but it was too late. This time, Ian was too clever for his own good. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming's little hand to his lips and kissed it. He continued, "Luckily, Lee's plan from the start was to take revenge on Sauter, so he did not panic. All the revenge plans were slightly modified and became a new plan to rescue you." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head. "I'm sorry, I panicked when I saw my son being kidnapped. I acted without much consideration, and implicated all of you." Elvis shook his head. "Fool, it's my honor to be able to fight for you." Gu Mengmeng gently leaned into Elvis's arms. She carefully avoided his wounds. "But your injuries are so serious." Elvis turned his body slightly and focused his gaze on Gu Mingming's little face. He said with a doting expression, "These injuries are nothing. I am a 5th level orc now, I will recover in no time. Look, I am no longer in pain." Gu Mingming's eyes were red. "How can you not be in pain with such injuries?" Elvis gently wiped away Gu Mingming's tears. "As long as I can see you, I will not feel pain anywhere." Gu Mengmeng buried her face into Elvis's palm and said, "I'm sorry for making you worry." Elvis heaved a long sigh of relief and kissed Gu Mingming's tear-stained face. "You have my mating mark on you. If anything happens to you, I will definitely know. The fact that I have felt no danger proves that you are safe. But even so, my heart was still flustered. You can't run around anymore. No matter what you do, you have to have me by your side. Do you understand?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. "I will never run around again. I will never let you fall into such a predicament because of me." Elvis just smiled. The sleepless battles over the past few days had made him exhausted. It was his conviction to see Gu Mengmeng that had supported him till now. Now that Gu Mengmeng was in his arms, he finally could not resist the sleepiness and slowly closed his eyes, falling into a deep sleep. When Elvis woke up, Leah was already back. Exhausted, Leah only hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, "Thank you." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. It was clearly her fault for not thinking things through. Why was Leah thanking her? Chapter 506. No matter how many times Gu Mengmeng experienced the tolerance males gave to females in the beast world, she still felt it was too exaggerated and could not get used to it. Moving her shoulders, Gu Mengmeng looked up and asked, "Did he say where the babies are?" Leah shook his head apologetically and said, "The more we care about the little wolf babies, the more Cole will use this as a bargaining chip to threaten us. I think I need some time to plan." Gu Mengmeng nodded. She knew that Leah and Elvis had been waiting day and night for this period of time to save her. No matter how anxious she was, she could not bear to rush them at this time. Leah knew that Gu Meng Meng was worried and gently hugged her back to Elvis's side. He placed Gu Meng Meng in the middle and laid on the other side of her. His furry large tail covered Gu Meng Meng like a blanket. Leah and Elvis each held one of Gu Meng Meng's hands and said, "Tell us everything that happened when we were not by your side. The more information we have, the more beneficial it will be for my plan." Gu Meng Meng nodded. Then, she recounted how she came here to seek help, how she realized there was something wrong with Cole, how she tried to please him, and even how she purposely misaligned the needle angles when she was stitching Cole's wound, making it into a weird shape so that the wound would not heal easily. Then, Dylan asked Gu Meng Meng, "Regarding kissing you without permission, should I apologize or confess?" At that time, Gu Meng Meng almost wanted to give Dylan a slap. Later on, Dylan told her many secrets that only Gu Meng Meng could know through Leah, before she finally believed that Dylan was really Lee's man. Then, she told her all the details of Dylan and Lee's exchange of crucial information and cooperation. Leah listened carefully and remained silent for a long time before saying, "I guess, the little wolves should be in Ellie's hands." Gu Meng Meng was confused and asked, "Why do you think it's Ellie?" "Just because of Cole's words." Leah nodded and said, "Cole is a meticulous person and his lies are never completely false. There must be some truth hidden in the false information. Based on my analysis, the information about the Snake King is true because it would be too easy for him to expose himself. Moreover, the Snake King was just trying to intimidate you and make you believe that the Snake King Valley is very dangerous. His motive was to make you rely and trust him. After all, in the face of such a powerful opponent, he was the only one you could rely on. He must be lying when he said he was looking for a level 5 snake beast, because he was the one who helped Allie kidnap the wolf cub. Why would he be looking for a snake beast?" Gu Meng Meng thought along with Lee's words and said, "The wound on his abdomen was lacerated and he had mild symptoms of poisoning when he first came back. He said that he was bitten by Ali's accomplice, and Dylan also said that the wound was caused by the snake's teeth. Then, was it Ellie who bit him?" Leah thought about it and agreed, "The possibility is very high." Gu Meng Meng laughed coldly. "Injuring myself to gain the confidence of others. You're really willing to part with your capital and almost lost your life just to deceive me." Leah pinched Gu Meng Meng's chin and said, "Don't underestimate your charm. If my role was swapped with Cole today, I might be even more ruthless than him." Chapter 507. Not all of them, probably, only Cole and I are like this. Leo lowered his head and smiled bitterly. When I was young, everyone wanted me to develop a rapport with my eldest brother. But no one knew that the person I liked the most was my second brother, Cole. Because my eldest brother always had a long face. Every time we met, he would ask me how many esoteric manuals I had memorized. Did my deduction skills improve? How many medicinal herbs and cases did I learn? But Cole was different. Every time he came back from outside, he would bring me new toys, tell me interesting stories and secretly bring me out to play, so compared to my eldest brother, I am closer to Cole. Gu Meng Meng did not interrupt Leah. Because Lee's past and what had happened was like Pandora's box, full of unknowns. If he was finally willing to open it, even if the last thing that jumped out was a devil, Gu Meng Meng would have the courage to hug Leah and face it together. Leah kissed Gu Meng Meng's forehead, as if this was the only way for him to have the courage to continue. But until he pushed me onto the bed of my father's beloved concubine, then brought my father and a group of elders to rush in, did I know. I was tricked by my most beloved second brother. My father said that he wanted to kill me in a fit of anger. But he cried and hugged his father's leg to plead for me. He wanted my father to spare my life on account of us being father and son. Banishment became my outcome. And he gained the good reputation of being loyal to his father and loving his younger brother. Gu Meng Meng raised her hand and gently touched the dead knot between Li's brows. She asked, if something really happened between you and that beloved concubine, there would definitely be a mark. Since you didn't do it, you should explain to your father clearly. You just need to check that beloved concubine's body and the truth will be revealed. Leah held Gu Mingming's little hand gently and kissed it. He said, "Fool, it's not important whether something happened between me and that beloved concubine. What's important is that all the nobles, elders, and my father saw me lying on that beloved concubine's bed in a disheveled state. This is enough to make my father lose face. As for what happened between me and her, no one would care." Gu Meng Meng looked at the coldness in Li's eyes and felt a sharp pain in her heart. He was a biological father. His face was more important than his son. How twisted. Leah sighed and continued, "Ninth Highness, in just one night, you've turned from the successor of Sauter's godly authority to a shameless synonym of a promiscuous father's concubine who should be devoured by the flame devil. I was banished, whipped, and bullied, but I stubbornly wanted to come back and demand an explanation. I shouted that I was innocent and that I didn't do those things. But what he got in return was an even crueler and more ruthless banishment. Later on, I met Cole in the forest on the outskirts of Sauter. He had come looking for me on purpose and even brought my favorite food. He said, he just came to see how the favored son of theocracy, who used to be doted on by everyone, was now in dire straits." Gu Meng Meng frowned and hugged Li's arm, her heart aching for him. Is his mind twisted? Why would he harm you like this? Chapter 508. Gu Meng Meng hugged Leah and wanted to comfort him, but she did not know where to start. But Leah did not seem to be sad over the past. He just looked up at Gu Meng Meng with a smile and asked, "Your heart aches?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and did not hide her emotions. Leah hugged Gu Mingming's waist back and smiled, "I knew you are the softest. Saying these words to you, you will definitely not be able to harden your heart to me." Gu Meng Meng smiled faintly and replied, "Yeah, then why didn't you tell me earlier?" Leah shook his head and kissed Gu Mingming's cheek lightly, saying, "Because I am greedy. I want you to accept me because you like me and not because you pity me." Gu Meng Meng kissed Li's face back and asked again, "Then why are you telling me now?" Li's gaze was affectionate and gentle. He gently tidied the stray hair in front of Gu Mingming's forehead and said, "Because I am more greedy than before. Not only do I want you to like me, I also want you to feel sorry for me, think about me, care about me, love me dearly." Gu Meng Meng blushed and let go of Li's hand. She shifted towards Elvis who was behind her and said, "What do you mean by love you dearly? Speak properly." Leah rubbed Gu Mingming's little head dotingly and said, "You, always giving me such interesting reactions. I can't help but want to tease you all the time." Gu Meng Meng turned her face away and said, "Don't be serious, I am not going to talk to you anymore." Leah nodded and said, I'm too tired today. Tomorrow, I'll tell you what Elvis and I did when you were not around." Gu Meng Meng looked at Li's tired face and nodded. She offered her lips and kissed his chin, saying, "You too must be exhausted, have a good rest." Leah closed his eyes in satisfaction and adjusted the angle of his large furry tail on Gu Mingming's body to cover her properly. Elvis's hand passed under Gu Mingming's armpit and rested on her waist. He kissed the back of her head and said, "Xiao Meng, thank you." Gu Meng Meng did not turn back. She knew that there was a pair of affectionate eyes staring at her from behind. Her careless escape must have driven them crazy. However, when they saw her, not only did they not reprimand her, they even thanked her for protecting them and not letting them get hurt. This gratitude only made Gu Meng Meng feel even more guilty. She did not dare to meet Elvis's eyes because she knew very well how afraid Elvis was of being abandoned by her. She clearly knew that even if she were to go near the lake, he would be instantly tensed up. But she had completely thrown her fear of him to the back of her mind and chased after the danger alone. "Hubby, I'm sorry. I'll never run around again." Gu Mingming's apology was met with a deep kiss from Elvis, branding the back of her head. "Fool, go to sleep." Ignoring the pain from Gu Mingming's touch, Elvis pulled her into his arms and hugged her even tighter. Only then could he close his eyes in peace and not worry about her suffering in a place he could not see, or about her facing unforeseen dangers. The next morning, Leah woke up early to prepare breakfast. Oriton, who shared a meal with them, and Ian, who no longer needed to hide his identity, brought the giant beast and fish. Chapter 509. It was not convenient for Oriton and Ian to enter Gu Mingming's house, so Leah set up a big pot outside the house and told them everything that happened after Gu Mingming left while cooking. The situation was too chaotic and Ian's judgment could not be said to be wrong. After all, everyone in Saint Nazaire was suppressed. Even if Gu Mingming was the messenger of the beast deity, she was like a piece of shellfish without the protection of its shell. It was too dangerous. Compared to staying in an unknown danger, seeking protection from the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity was the best choice. Even if Cole had any selfish motives, the identity of the messenger of the beast deity was already known to the public. No matter what, Cole could only protect Gu Mingming. This was also the reason why Ian left immediately after his injuries were slightly better. If not, Cole could just kill Ian and seal off the news of Gu Mingming being in solder. Then, he could accuse Saint Nazaire of failing to protect the messenger. After Saint Nazaire was surrounded and destroyed by the various tribes in the beast world, Solder could then find a random reason to say that they saved Gu Mingming from some powerful person. Then, they would naturally become the hero who protected their master. Although Gu Mingming would most likely not cooperate with Ian's lies, they could just surround Gu Mingming and prevent her from interacting with the outside world. Who would know the truth then? Moreover, Cole still had the fox seductive fragrance. If he used it on Gu Mingming, she might, so, the first thing Ian did after waking up was to escape and become Gu Mingming's insurance. On his way back to Saint Nazaire, he met Elvis and Leah who were chasing after him. After exchanging information, Ian then realized that he had fallen into Cole's trap. The 5th level beast pressure was not carried over by him, but Cole had purposely created an opening for him to bring Gu Mingming to him on his own accord. After Leah gathered all the information, the first step was to ask Ian to return to Saint Nazaire and let everyone, including the females, head towards Solder. Leave 2 of the strongest males in each female's family and let the entire Eagle Owl tribe escort the females to Solder. On the other hand, the other males would meet up with Elvis and attack Solder from the front to attract their attention and ensure the safety of the females. At the same time, they would cover for Leah to sneak into Solder and contact Dylan, who had defected long ago, to confirm Gu Mingming's safety and convey his plan to Gu Mingming. On the other hand, Gu Mingming pretended to be concerned about Cole, who was pretending to be unconscious. Leo was betting that Cole would definitely not give up the chance to let Gu Mingming accompany and get close to him in order to make the fox seductive fragrance work on Gu Mingming. In addition, Cole knew that Leah and Elvis were only 3rd level and 4th level respectively, so the 2 5th level snow foxes outside definitely had the ability to control the situation. That was why he stayed by Gu Mingming's side with a peace of mind, putting on a show of injuring himself to gain the confidence of the enemy. He completely did not realize that this was Lee's trick, using Gu Mingming as bait to restrain Solder's strongest battle power. As for the 2 level 5 beasts, she was only 5th level advanced and eventually became Elvis's training partner. She successfully helped Elvis break out of the bottle and enter the 5th level state. Chapter 510. After defeating the 2 snow foxes, Leah did not choose to attack Solder immediately. Instead, he let Elvis rest and recuperate while secretly sneaking into Solder to search for Jillian's whereabouts. He knew Cole's ability. Even if Elvis had risen to the 5th level, it was almost impossible for him to defeat Cole in a head-on battle. The only chance of victory was to tamper with the mating contract. Leah resisted the urge to see Gu Meng Meng. He used the secret path that only the witch doctor knew to wander around the restricted areas of Sauder. He did not believe that Cole would let his weakness leave his control. Ever since Cole became a partner, no one had seen this female before, and that was the best evidence. The only possibility was that he had hidden his female. When Leah finally found Jillian in the secret room that could only be entered during the tribe leader's sacrifice, Leah finally laughed out loud. He secretly brought Jillian away and could not wait to meet up with Elvis to attack Sauder in one fell swoop. And at this moment, Cole was still dreaming of using the fox's seductive fragrance to make Gu Meng Meng submit. Leah had described in one sentence how many blood-soaked battles and how many narrow escapes they had gone through. It was only right for a male to pay any price for a female. He did not want Gu Meng Meng to have any psychological burden because of this. But Gu Meng Meng was neither blind nor stupid. Elvis's old wounds that could not heal in time, Lee's faint scars that could not be hidden, and even Oratin's and Ian's bodies did not have a single piece of good flesh. Those who still did not dare to show their faces in front of him were even worse off. Gu Meng Meng knew that everyone did not want her to see their pathetic states, so she chose not to ask. But she would remember this kindness in her heart. Leah scooped a bowl of meat for Gu Meng Meng and fed her spoonful by spoonful. Gu Meng Meng wanted to reject him, but Lee's expression turned serious. He said in a wrong tone, "I am still a beast pet that you accepted. Don't I even have the right to feed you? During the time you were gone, I was worried every day whether Cole had mistreated you, did not feed you well, did not let you have a good rest. Now that I'm finally back by your side, can't you just let me feed you once and personally make sure that you're full so that I can feel at ease?" Gu Meng Meng had no choice but to listen to Leah. She carried the unconscious Qi Xian in her arms and ate the food Leah sent to her mouth mouthful by mouthful. Oratin still had a poker face. Now, he could use his chopsticks like the wind and did not need anyone to tell him to eat. He only put down his chopsticks after wrapping up half a pot of stewed meat. He looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, "The first time I fought, it was not to protect myself, not because I was bored, not because I enjoyed killing, but to protect someone, something. This feeling is very special. Thank you for giving me such an opportunity." Gu Meng Meng looked at Oratin, who looked like a military officer giving a post-battle report, and suddenly felt like laughing. She looked at Oratin speechlessly and pursed her lips before saying, "Do you know what you are saying? Look at your body full of injuries. This battle wasn't easy, right? Did he almost lose his life? You actually thanked me. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.